The internet gives us all a voice. It connects us to people across the world, lets us share our passions and build communities. But what happens when that connection is taken, twisted, and used against you? What happens when the person you're sharing your life with is not a friend, but a hunter? This is the story of Sarah, a young woman who thought her digital life was her own, until it became the blueprint for her end. Our story begins in the bright, pastel-colored world of a popular social media platform. Sarah was a content creator. Not a huge celebrity, but she had a following. She was a lifestyle blogger who shared her love for vintage fashion, antique books, and quiet coffee shops. Her posts were artfully curated, full of cozy moments and a peaceful aesthetic. She was known for her Story Sundays, where she'd read aloud from a classic novel, her voice soft and soothing. Among her thousands of followers was a user named Watcher. Watcher was a new account with no profile picture and no posts. He followed all of Sarah's accounts, but he never commented. He just watched. At first, Sarah didn't even notice him. He was just one of many anonymous accounts. But over time she started to see him. He was always one of the first to view her stories. Sometimes, his name would pop up right after she posted something, an almost instant notification. It was a little strange, but not alarming. The internet was full of strange things. The first time it got a little weird was when Sarah posted a picture of a rare book she had just found at a small, independent bookstore in her neighborhood. It was a first edition of a little-known novel, and she was ecstatic. Within minutes of her post, she received a direct message from Watcher. The message was short. The bookstore on Elm Street has a leaky roof on the far left aisle. You were standing right under it. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She had never mentioned the name of the bookstore. She hadn't even tagged it. It was a detail only someone who had been there at that exact moment would know. She deleted the message and blocked the account. The knot in her stomach was a mix of unease and dismissal. It had to be a coincidence, she told herself. A creepy coincidence. But it wasn't a coincidence. A week later, Sarah posted about her morning routine, showing off her favorite coffee mug and a new blend she was trying. She took the picture in her living room, her face obscured, but a small, distinctive scratch on her wooden coffee table was visible in the corner of the frame. An hour later, she received an email. The subject line was chilling. Your mug is beautiful. I hope the scratch on your table doesn't bother you too much. This time there was no denying it. Watcher had found her. He had seen the picture, identified the scratch, and knew enough about her to send a personal email. The fear was cold and sharp. She immediately changed all of her passwords, switched her usernames, and went completely private on all her accounts. She even considered shutting down her online presence entirely. For a few weeks, nothing happened. The silence was more terrifying than the messages. Every time she saw a car slow down on her street, every time her phone buzzed with an unknown number, her heart would race. She started looking over her shoulder when she was out, avoiding her usual coffee shops and changing her daily routine. The freedom she had once enjoyed was gone, replaced by a constant, gnawing anxiety. Then came the photo. It was an anonymous text message, a picture of her front door. The picture was taken from across the street in the dark, and her small, potted plant was visible on the porch. The message with it simply read, "You can change your name, Sarah. But you can't change your home." That's when Sarah went to the police. She walked into the precinct with a folder full of screenshots, messages, and emails. The officer who listened to her story, a middle-aged detective named Miller, was patient but skeptical. He had seen countless cases of online harassment. It was a nuisance, he thought, but rarely a real threat. He told her to be more careful online, to stop posting so much personal information. He called it a wake-up call and suggested she invest in a better security system. The message was clear. There was nothing they could do. Sarah left the police station feeling more alone than ever. The system that was supposed to protect her had dismissed her. They didn't see the fear in her eyes, didn't understand the invisible digital walls that had crumbled around her. She was on her own. And Watcher knew it. His messages became bolder. They were no longer cryptic hints but direct threats. He described her daily walks, the route she took to work, even the color of the jacket she wore. He knew when she was alone, when she was with friends, and when she was sleeping. The digital hunter was now a physical presence. He knew her schedule, her habits, her fears. He knew the coffee she drank, the music she listened to, the dreams she had. He had not just stalked her online. He had become a part of her life, an unwelcome shadow. Sarah decides to fight back. She realizes that her stalker must have a physical presence to know all these details. With the help of a sympathetic friend, a retired digital forensics expert named David, she begins a meticulous counter-investigation. They go through all her past posts, cross-referencing watchers' messages with details she accidentally revealed, no matter how small. They discover that Watcher is a master of geocaching, using tiny, publicly available details, like a unique reflection in a window or the shadow of a street sign, to triangulate her location. This section is a deep dive into the technical details of online stalking and digital forensics, building suspense through Sarah's growing horror as she sees exactly how her life was laid bare. With no help from the police, Sarah turned to the one person she trusted with her life, her old family friend, David. David was a quiet man who had spent 30 years with the FBI, specializing in cybercrime. He saw the cold fear in Sarah's eyes and knew this was no ordinary case. He agreed to help, but on one condition: they would work with silence and precision as if they were dealing with a ghost. Together, they began the painstaking process of analyzing Sarah's entire digital life. They found it. A post from over a year ago, a picture of her reflection in a shop window. The reflection was distorted, but David, with his trained eye, could make out the faint, barely visible letters of a street name in the background, reflected in the glass. It was enough. "He's not a master hacker, Sarah," David said, his voice low and serious. "He's a meticulous observer, a collector of data. Every detail you thought was harmless was a breadcrumb leading him to you." David and Sarah start to build a profile of the stalker. They discover a pattern in his digital behavior. He doesn't just watch her. He follows a dozen other content creators. They are all young, female, and share a similar cozy aesthetic. David uses their collective digital footprints to create a map of obsession, a chilling visualization of all the places Watcher has been, both online and offline. The true horror is revealed when they notice a pattern. 2 of the other creators on Watcher's list have recently gone quiet. The last post from one of them is a picture of a coffee mug, identical to the one Sarah was messaged about. This section focuses on the horrifying realization that Sarah is not just being watched, she's part of a collection, and the collector is now finished with 2 of his previous projects. The map David created was a nightmare of a different kind. It was a web of red lines, connecting different cities and different people. Each line was a digital footprint, a trace of Watcher's presence. There were a dozen of them, all young women who, like Sarah, shared their lives online. 2 of the red lines, however, were incomplete. They ended abruptly. David found the last public post from one of the girls, a picture of a unique coffee mug. Sarah's blood ran cold. It was the same mug from Watcher's first email to her. The realization hit her like a physical blow. The mug wasn't a coincidence. It was a trophy. With this terrifying new information, Sarah and David decide to turn the tables. They begin to actively bait Watcher, creating a false digital trail to a non-existent new home. They stage photos and posts that show her moving to a different part of the city. The goal is to draw him out of his patterns, to force him to make a mistake. Watcher, confident in his ability to track her, takes the bait. This section is a tense, strategic chess game, with Sarah and David using her online persona to misdirect and confuse the stalker, all while setting up a series of traps. They created an elaborate ruse. Sarah posted pictures of moving boxes, of an empty apartment, of a view of a new, unknown street. Each picture was carefully doctored, a digital phantom built to lure a predator. Watcher, predictably, began to escalate his messages, trying to pinpoint her new location. He was impatient, his words filled with a frantic need for control. He had to see his prey. "You can run, Sarah," one message read. "But you can't hide. I see your new building's security cameras. They're old. I can get in." This was the mistake they were waiting for. They had deliberately left a single digital flaw in their staged photos, a reflection of a fake security camera brand. Watcher had taken the bait, revealing his methods and his location. The climax: David, using the information from Watcher's mistake, pinpoints his general location. The police, finally convinced by the evidence of a serial pattern, set up a surveillance operation. Sarah, with a deep breath and a final act of courage, posts a final chilling message to her audience. A public exposé of Watcher, his pattern of stalking, and the fate of the other girls. She signs off with a final message to him: "I know where you are. And now everyone knows what you are." As she posts it, a figure is seen on a distant security camera. A man sitting in a car, frozen in disbelief as he reads her post on his phone. The police move in and the digital hunter is caught. The final post went live. Sarah didn't use a pseudonym this time. She used her real name. The message was a chilling summary of everything she had uncovered: the patterns, the victims, the trophies. She ended it with a direct address to her stalker, her voice in the text defiant and unafraid. As the message spread across the internet, a dozen other content creators came forward, sharing their own stories of Watcher. The web of fear had been exposed. Meanwhile, miles away in a quiet suburban street, a man in a car was watching her account on his phone. His face, illuminated by the screen, was a mask of shock and rage. He had lost control. He had become the hunted. And as the police sirens wailed in the distance, he looked up, just as the first officers approached his window. The story concludes with the aftermath. The man, a data analyst named Mark, confesses. His motives were not sexual or violent in a physical sense, but driven by a deep-seated need for control and a sense of power over others. He saw people as a collection of data, and their lives were his stories. The story ends with Sarah's testimony, where she speaks not of vengeance, but of the importance of digital safety and the need for everyone to be aware of their online footprint. She uses her platform for a new purpose, to help others protect themselves. Mark, the man they found in the car, was just that, a man. He was no monster in a slasher film, but his quiet obsession was a different kind of evil. In his mind, he wasn't a predator, he was an artist. He created narratives, and in his final confession he spoke of how beautiful her life had been, how perfect her little world was, and how he just wanted to be a part of it, even if it meant destroying it. Sarah now uses her platform for a new purpose. She still shares stories, but they're not just about vintage clothes or old books. They are stories of resilience, of fighting back, of the quiet strength it takes to reclaim your life from the digital shadows. We tell ourselves that what happens online stays online. But this story proves that's a dangerous lie. The line between the digital world and our real lives is thin, almost non-existent. Every picture we post, every thought we share, every click we make leaves a trace. We all leave digital breadcrumbs, and sometimes a hunter is watching, waiting to follow them. This wasn't just a story about a stalker, it was a warning. This story made you think, then share it. The internet is built on code, but it's run by people. And people can be predators. Hit that like button, subscribe for more stories that matter, and let's keep the conversation going, because next time it might not be a story. It might be someone you know.